Okay guys, I've got another one here for you, and this one is actually awesome to show you. Kind of talking about multiple things here in this video. The continuing on the conversation like in the other videos with aluminum construction, the strength points, you know, where you're getting your strength in an aluminum unit, the sheeting, you know, a window right here in this portion of a unit. And you know, this one is what I would consider a relatively high quality unit. And I want to make it clear to you guys, I'm not interested in going to war with the big guys in the RV industry in general. I just want you to understand all of the differences in the various build methods, and really understand pros and cons to how some of this stuff is built. And when you say I've got an aluminum unit, or I've got XYZ, or I have a structural panel, or blah blah blah, whatever you're gonna pick, and whatever, you know, rock you're gonna die on, what is there behind the surface, and what are we actually talking about? So this one is just an awesome example of that. So for years, I'll cover first the window here, this sheeting. And if you want to see my other videos there on aluminum, kind of as a precursor to this video, go and subscribe to the channel and check those videos out, because there's some good ones there. But for windows, as a manufacturer, we do not put windows here. This is one thing that we will refuse to do. And if a customer really wants a window in this particular spot, we will actually either decline it from building about 99% of the time, or we will void the warranty and tell them nope, it's just not going to happen, because we know we can't stand behind it. But, and it's because, pick a method. In this case, this is a thermal pane window, right? And it's over there on the bench, and he is getting it drilled out so that it can reinstall here. But this thermal pane window, or skylight, whatever you want to call it, comes all the way out here and out here, right? And then it goes up over the roof. Well, the problem here is that window had no fasteners in it. It was just put on with adhesive. And you can see there's no real prepping to this surface. It was just kind of stuck on here, and you know, hopefully it doesn't come off. There's no real primer here, and there's no etching or anything to get that to stay. And then as far as fasteners go, if you say, okay, well then let's just take it apart and put fasteners in here. If you look in here, the aluminum frame stops right here, okay? And the actual footprint of that skylight is much wider than where the framing is. So when you come back in here, you got to get creative with how you're going to actually get this to stay. Now, as far as this sheeting method goes, we're going to kind of, we'll continue talking about how you actually get that skylight to go back in and stay. But we've also now got to toggle into the sheeting in order to have that conversation, and the actual structure. Because what are you going to screw that thing to? Well, in this particular case, this unit is a loose hung aluminum style, which I'm a massive fan of, because you can expand and contract. Your surface can expand and contract with the various elements and temperatures and everything out there. And your surface, your unit underneath it, can tweak and twist in the right ways. And all of that movement is kind of deleted out in... Anyway, got a phone call there. But the movement does not transfer to the surface in a bad way, in a structural way. That surface can expand and contract, and the structural movement is confined to the actual unit itself. But is that good? Is that okay? Well, it depends on a lot of things. Here again, just like in our other videos, look at our welding, okay? Look at our welds. That weld has got a tremendous amount of undercut, okay? There's no real penetration there, and it's just kind of setting on top of this other one. Now, there's some penetration in this weld, but then right here on this side, it's not actually biting, right? So you can't call that structural. So you say, okay, well, is that fine if we have a bad weld here or there? You know, we also have little tacks there. Those aren't 360 welds. So that joint is going to move and play, right? But if we have just 3/4 by 3/4 material here as your with 16th wall, that's pretty weak. So you're going to need shear strength. Well, the problem with sheeting, you know, with aluminum is, with wood, you get to have glue here with your staples if you do it right. and then you have several fasteners on the joint, and then that paneling holds your framing tight. In this case, this framing is not held tight. It's relying on its strength of the weld, but then what keeps this paneling mounted to this? Well, right here is an easier place to show you. This is just nails, guys. These are just quick, like, finish nails tacked into that aluminum, right? And you can see it's ripped through. So as this thing moves and tweaks and twists, there's no bonding. There's no bond strength there. Okay, that's a really big deal. There's no adhesive. There's really no strength in that, no shear strength in this paneling. And now this is a multiple integrated method approach where you have loose hung aluminum, you have an aluminum structure, then you have a wood substrate or shear panel. There's also Asdel incorporated into this build. Asdel is a composite substrate that replaces, or is supposed to replace, wood. But even still, guys, you need some sort of adhesive or glue mounting to your frame in order to expect it to be nice and strong, especially if you're going to loose hang your sheet material. Now on the side walls, and hopefully you guys have stuck with me because this is a lot of information that's pretty valuable. This right here is fiberglass. This is Phylon, right? And then it's Phylon here. So you're relying on bondage strength, and then you got loose hung here. Well, it's really important to know, if you think about the articulation and tweaking and twisting in a structure, where does that movement go? Sure, you can have a sip in the wall, but if you have a super strong wall, where are you moving that movement to? Where are you transferring the movement? Well, guys, it's pretty well known that a lot of that movement gets moved into the front wall and in the back wall when it comes to building. And then this is very key to structure, right? But in that front wall, so there's a good argument to say it's good that they did this build method, but at the same time, if you're going to execute it in a way where you have done your welds this way and then you have no shear strength on your panel, that's pretty bad. It's part of the reason why this thing failed. Okay, so anyway, that's just a good one to know. But then as far as putting this on, now that we know what the structure is underneath there, where we have just an aluminum stud that's running over this way and tying in over here to the corner, and it's just tack welded. Well, how do we mount that thing back? Because we can't just put it on with adhesive and then send the customer down the road and say, well, you had a bad design, sorry, we put it back for you, but that's going to last 8 months and it's going to be a problem again. We want to try and fix it, right? We want to delete out the issue. So what's the options? Well, in this case, what we've got to do with that acrylic dual pane skylight is we've got to drill it. Now, you can't just drill acrylic and expect it not to shatter. Even though it's plastic, it acts like glass, right? In this case, this, I believe, is more of a polycarbonate base than an acrylic base. Let's run over there. So you have dissimilar plastics here bonded together to accomplish your thermal pocket. And that's okay and all, but in order to put this back together, there's very few sealants, even urethane, that's going to stick to this without etching it. And even etching it is a bit of a challenge because you don't want to come in here and chemical etch it, because if you chemical etch even polycarbonate, plexiglass, anything like that, it'll shatter out on you. It'll dehydrate and it will shatter. So you got to be really careful with that. So you need to be able to get good windshield urethane here or something underneath there. But then there's another problem. This is pretty durable, but that radius does not match that radius. It's not the same, okay? So now you're gonna have to rely on your sealant again rather than fastener pressure. So in this case, here's how we're fixing this. This is not ideal at all, but when you're given lemons and then asked to bring some professionalism to it, you know, this is kind of an example of what comes of that. So this is what everybody in a shop calls a spider rivet. It's actually a split rivet that acts similar to an anchor, right? And we like the ones with the large washer head so that can go through here. All of this needs to be pre-drilled. Pre-drill. Don't go in and just put your deal up there and then screw stuff on, and then, you know, with your sealant and everything, that's shoddy. You need to pre-drill everything. This has been pre-drilled. Don't just put a fastener through this plastic. It's gonna shatter it. Okay, so we have made this to where this is loose. Okay, again, when you're given lemons, you don't want to put a rivet into your plastic, expand it, and shatter the plastic. That will happen. Okay, so we have drilled this, and we did test drills to make sure this wasn't going to shatter out on us. That's why I believe this is more, rather than a true acrylic, it's more of a polycarbonate base, right? Now we're going to go in, do our pre-drilling up there, drill all of our holes, and then those holes on the sheet metal, that is a more closer to an 0334 sheet metal, which means you'll get bite here. But this rivet, when expanded, looks like this. All right, magic. It's expanded. So it looks like this. So behind this surface, this is what it's going to do, okay? And we'll use the longest spider rivets we can. And the idea here is you get a good amount of sealant underneath here. You get your expansion rivet in, but you got to seal around the head, the washer portion of your expansion rivet, or not your expansion rivet, sorry, bad terminology, of your spider rivet here. And that's kind of why it's called a spider rivet, is because it kind of has legs, right? You get your sealant here just before, once you send it through and you know all your holes are in the right spot, you send that sucker home, and then in the middle you have a problem. You have a hole into the middle of the camper. Horrible. But again, when you're given lemons, what do, right? So then we're gonna seal over top of this. We're gonna tube sealant into that pretty tight, seal over top of this. And then that will hold up. And then once everything expands out over the next couple of days, then you clean it all up again, and then you run a real good healthy bead of sealant around the perimeter of this. And then essentially, that skylight is gonna be, for lack of a better term, floating on here along with this loose hung material, rather than actually tight against and screwed into any kind of frame. So anyway, guys, I hope that one was helpful. Kind of more on the conversation of aluminum and everything. And here, as I'm standing here and nervously fiddling, I am fiddling with this, and you can see this right here is loose, right? So where's the structure there? Once things start failing with this particular build method, oftentimes they start ripping themselves apart because there's too much movement. Anyway, guys, like, subscribe, and all that stuff if you're finding value here. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and we'll catch you on the next one.